And of course, even positive cryptids will agree. Human meat, we taste awesome. We are delicious. Even the cryptids that don't need to eat us. Even positive cryptids. Well, howdy, Nearly Senior Citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends. And even though it's supposed to be cooler today, even though the weather forecasting, all that says it's cooler outside, I'm using noise reduction because my fan is on in the window because I'm really hot. Hokey SMOKES. Thumbs up for that. So it was really hot yesterday. Joy. In fact, some of my housemates and some of my housemates' relatives who showed up last night, they were not in good shape because of the heat. It was bad. I mean, one person they had only traveled from their home to here, and it was bad for them because of the heat. So, oy vey. But things are, cooler today, hopefully much. Still, thumbs up, and of course, front-loading of videos. Hey, if you could toss me a like if you like what you hear and see, that'd be awesome. If you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't and you like what you hear and see, that would be very, very cool. My pillow is not feeling right from my back, yay. And of course, if you could leave me a comment, that'd be very cool. And I would like to thank each and every one of my Patreon patrons, these literally beautiful and literally awesome people who are in fact literally beautiful and literally awesome. They help keep me and my pets alive. And that is very much appreciated because without these people's help, we would all be hosed like literal Christmas monkeys. And trust me, that is no way to be hosed. Hopefully I kept my hands up for an appropriate amount of time. I have things here so that I couldn't see properly, so yay. Front loading of videos over. Thumbs up. Yeah, so didn't do a ton yesterday, but I had therapy, and that was good. Talked with my therapist, we talked about this and that. I've been having, of course, issues because I've been taking my Worldbuilding for a full month, and then I wasn't getting it, so for the last week, I've been on half dosages, and I'm on a very low dosage anyway, so next month I need to see about increasing that. I take 150 total in a day, 75 twice a day. You can take 450. You may not need to, but I'm like taking the absolute minimum, and I'm not getting full effect either. Well, I still haven't been long enough for the antidepressant effect. I don't know. But I would like extra for the ADHD. Still though, my meds did show up yesterday as well, so I'm taking the full twice a day for the bupropion/Worldbuilding. Yay! But things went well with the therapist, and then it was hot, and I did what I could and survived, and then went out walkies, and yeah, I go out walkies when there's still a little bit of light out, and when I get back, it's full dark. We're heading into winter. I don't mind the cold. But I have seasonal affective disorder syndrome, and when I don't have sunlight, that really hurts my mood, so yay. Still though, things are kind of okay on that front, and that's good. Now, I wanted to talk about this one. I talked about Neil Young yesterday and the music that he made. He was very important musically back in the 60s, 70s, and like that. He was one of those very influential musicians. Still has been influential, just the effect has been diluted because there's so much out there, whereas there wasn't quite as much back in that day. And politically, he was very energizing. But since then, if you haven't really heard of him, yeah, he's affected music. Music wouldn't be the way it is today without him, but I don't blame anyone for not knowing. But I had mentioned how he had released a couple of albums that had the record label actually sue him. I did some Googling, ended up on Wikipedia to find out about this, and I'm going to read this here. Because he had switched his label because he was friends with the guy that ran the record label, David Geffen of Geffen Records. He went to Geffen Records because he had known David Geffen, he had been friends with David Geffen. David Geffen understood what he was as an artist, and so he switched to there. David Geffen, after promising that they would give him free reign, was such a nightmare for the album Everybody's Rockin'. He was so unhappy that they actually didn't even let Neil Young finish the album. They released it incomplete. And then, when it was a critical failure, which maybe the fact that they released it incomplete might have had something to do, because it was supposed to be a concept album, then David Geffen sued Neil Young for $3.3 million. Problem is, of course, that didn't go well because of the studio interference and such. Neil Young countersued for $21 million. And after that, David Geffen personally came out and apologized and said, yeah, I was wrong. I was bad. I shouldn't have interfered. I shouldn't have done anything of what I did. Oy vey, I was dumb. So, and just because you have money, and in fact, in many cases, because you have money, doesn't mean you're smart. Thumbs up on that. But past that, I just have survived yesterday, and I'm checking my list here to see if I have written anything else down on there. And no, because I didn't really do much. So thumbs up. I survived, and in the heat, that's kind of important. A lot of people don't. So, yay. But I want to talk on the creative front because I did think about my whole setting thing, the whole inside-outside razor's edge and the cryptid stuff. I've done a lot more thinking about cryptids, but actually first I am going to talk about this one because I did see that I have written it down and I wanted to talk about this. So I am always, because of my ADHD, unfocused, especially with Ritalin was here and all my other meds are down here. I can't focus as well. But I was thinking about nostalgia yesterday as well when I was out on walkies, and why I don't like a lot of nostalgia. Nostalgia is, of course, thinking about the past. I don't have a lot in my past that I really want to be reminded about. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was young, under 10, I suffered from reproductive assault and physical assault from my stepfather for the first and my grandfather for the second, because he didn't know how to communicate or deal with boys, so he communicated with me through his belt. I never really knew as a kid, because I had ADHD, what would set him off and get me smacked and beaten with his belt. And then, of course, the other thing, I dealt with all of this by starting to drink before I was 12 years old. By the time I was in high school, I was not a physical alcoholic, but I was a functioning alcoholic. And by the time I graduated high school and went into the military, I was a full-blown alcoholic. And when I got out, of course, it was even worse because I'd gone from drinking beer to drinking, a full bottle of liquor just on a weekend and not really feeling much from it. So the first part of my life, I don't really like to think about that. And then the second part, it was all with drinking and all of the bad things that happened with that. And of course the military, where with my depression, unknown ADHD, unknown fact that I am an autistic person, my growing social anxieties and social withdrawal, I was not a good fit for the military. Honorable discharge, I could have done it. I could have stayed, but I would have continued being miserable. So that's not great. So I'm in my late 20s, where up until I was 38 years old, my alcoholism was just getting worse and worse and worse. So even as things were good, my health and all that was taking a downhill plunge until the year 2000. Do I want to remember much of those years? Life as an alcoholic sucks. I lived in a literal landfill, garbage, with incontinence in a bed soaked with urine. I don't like to remember those days. Then I married my wife. Yeah, that was good. From the year 2002 until she died in the year 2014, where after a year after we were married, she had to have heart surgery. And as soon as she was fully out, I spent the next 10 years watching her die in front of my eyes until in 2014 she died in my living room, and I had to call up the funeral home to say, can you come to my house and pick up the corpse of my dead wife, please? Yes, there is joy. I love my wife very, very much, and she loved me. But every memory is just filtered through the lens of watching her die. And since then, I have spent trying to not become homeless. Well, that's my full life, and I have not seen a whole lot of happiness and good stuff go on in there. Sure, there's happiness, sure, there's joy, but it's all underneath the other stuff. This is just a light glossing over the top. I would not wish my life on my worst enemy. Holy smokes. And nostalgia is wanting to be back to those previous times. Even that thing of smile because at least you had it. Don't be sad because it's gone. Yes, I am glad I married my wife, but I don't even like to think about my marriage because, yes, happy as I was that it happened and as much as I loved her, it almost killed me too. Holy smokes. So yeah, nostalgia is not a ton of fun for me. I don't like being reminded of my past. Every good thing has so much negative piled on top of it. Life is life. But I was thinking about cryptids while I was on walkies last night, and how I talk about how in fact I do a lot of stuff with the negative cryptids, but there are negative and positive and neutral cryptids. And if you act in accordance to your nature, there is pleasure. Act not in accordance with your nature, you have physical, mental, emotional discognizance. You start to suffer mentally, emotionally, and finally physically. So working in accordance with your nature is good. So there's only 1/3 of the cryptids out there that are negative. But even being a negative cryptid doesn't mean that you are bad. King Mike of Paul Pot Park in Brookerton, South Carolina, is a negative cryptid. He is a ghoul. He devours the human carcasses. But that's it. He's a negative cryptid. He doesn't kill. He doesn't need to. He eats the human dead. And the greener the meat, the better. And when it's acting according to your nature, even the thought of trying to kill someone just to eat them, unless it's just a pure survival situation, in which case you gotta do what you gotta do to live, but just on a non-survival method, just even thinking about killing someone to eat them for someone like Big Mike that's unpleasant. It's unpleasant to even think about. I mean, he's neutral toward people, but that's against his nature. Now, it is genetic. It is other universally genetic. All of these cryptids and people with the sight and razor's edge, it's all genetic. So because of genetics, your mileage may vary. You'll have some cryptids who can do other things because their nature is so loose, even if they're an archetype. But just because you're negative doesn't mean you're going to be against or bad. There are a very, very small, in comparison to the number of total negative cryptids, that actually have to devour human flesh to live and survive. And of that small number, there's an even smaller number of those that will devour anybody beyond the need to survive. They don't. If they need to eat 2 or 3 people a year, they do that, and then they don't eat anyone else. And while there are cryptids that eat other cryptids, a very small amount. Oh, great, another one of those little bugs that flew in through the window, yeah. While there are cryptids that eat other cryptids, if a cryptid is eating a human being for survival, the odds of it also being a cryptid that has to eat other cryptids while it's eating other human beings, effectively it doesn't happen. There's no one on the planet yet that has to do that. So if a cryptid eats other cryptids and they're having to eat people, it's thoroughly by choice. And that's a big thing. The number of cryptids that will eat by choice beyond what they need to do to survive is small. Relatively very small. But it only takes a small amount to really cause a big ripple. Because Reginald, one of those negative cryptids, he eats for flavor or boredom, or if he's really stressed out, human beings are his comfort food. He's a relatively rare cryptid that will do that. But if he feels stressed out and eats a human being every single day, that's 30 people in a month. That's a lot of people gone. And another cryptid might go through 30 people in 10, 12 years. So it's a relatively small number of cryptids that give cryptids a bad name. And of course, even positive cryptids will agree. Human meat, we taste awesome. We are delicious. Even the cryptids that don't need to eat us. Even positive cryptids that feel very kindly and positive and all that toward human beings as a species and individuals. Yeah, we are absolutely delicious. But if you don't need to eat people, why would you? Especially if you're a positive or neutral cryptid. There's just no need. There's more, but I've opened up 24 hours worth of comments in my community tab. I'm going to go through and thank however many people have left me comments in the past 24 hours. If I mispronounce a username, no disrespect is intended. And even though I count in American Sign Language, well, ADHD is fun. We have Jesse Koskinen. Thank goodness those meds finally showed up yesterday. Hokey smokes. I am very, very glad and very good to see you in the comments. There is WinX Spectra. Chris M. Thumbs up. Thank you very much. And suggests GoldenEye Source, a free remake of the N64 GoldenEye. So I'm going to check that out. Definitely. Thumbs up and thank you. JAYY. Oh, yes, thank goodness at least they showed up. Good to see you in the comments. We have Jonathan, thumbs up and thank you. I'm at least alive. There is Ivan and then S with a symbol over it, ALAMON. Thumbs up, thank you much. There is Johan Lee. I've not pronounced that one properly. I cannot remember the language. It is non-English here, but they were commenting on my VIX error reaction from years back. So thank you. There's Confused Owl 29. Oh, that was just that whole Geffen Records thing in Neil Young. It's funny and tragic. Insignificant Nick, thank you very, very much. Greatly appreciated. Loco 5, greatly appreciated. And thumbs up. And good thing you got yours as well. Your meds, not just yours. Good to see you in the comments. We have the Horror Files. Thumbs up, thank you very much, and good to see you as well. There is Sonia H, who gives me more information about Gerard Way from the song My Chemical Romance, The Ghost of You. I still stand by most of my early reactions, but I was badly broken back then. But thank you. And we have Adrian. Good to see you in the comments. Thank you very, very much. We have Ben B. Greatly appreciated. And thank you. Good to see you as well. And that is it. So thumbs up and thank you. 13 people who left me comments in the past 24 hours. You get me out of my head, into the world, dealing with real people, if only for a short time and if only in text. And it is appreciated to no end. And of course, if you watched this far, you don't need to, as in no one's forcing you to. So if you have, thank you very, very much. It is appreciated to no end. So I'm still going to try and make some phone calls today, try and get some paperwork done, maybe try and walk to the hospital if it's not too hot so I can talk to them there about the paperwork. So we'll see what we can do. Definitely a thumbs up on that, and hopefully you too can get done things that you would like to get done. If not, survival mode is important. And of course, with the Covfefe bug, goodness gracious. With the covfefe bug still raging along with other diseases, please just be smart for your situation. Be smart for the situation, location. You don't need to get sick. You don't need to pass on illnesses. You don't need to toss your own body or any other stranger's body onto the end of life corpse pile any sooner than you had to. Or the end of wharf corpse pile too. Thumbs up on that. So, until we meet again, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side, and that is a very good thing.